Mr. Lord High Treasurer, Mr. Keeper of the Sacred Aught, Count Negatus, High Steward, members of Nothing.net on Facebook, and last but and or not least, the Queen of Nothing. I address you this day for no specific purpose. More specifically, I'm here to talk to you about nothing. I know that for many enthusiasts watching right now, the state of nothing specific is a concern that rises above all others, even though that obviously makes little or no sense. And rightly so, because even if we can't feel the effect of that most specific nothing in our lives, the big nothing, the impact of nothing in general is very real and it's everywhere. By nothing in general, of course, I refer to the nothing that everyone possesses and assesses on a daily basis, our lack, the nothing of negation, things we don't already own. But while we appreciate this grand opportunity we have to shed our burdens or to have our burdens forcibly lifted from us so that we can travel lightly, we also fear that this nothing of negation may cause us to abound in nothing in general to such a great degree that we might become mired down by our own material inversion. What do I mean by this? I mean that we could get so bogged down in this vain attempt to capture our own loss that we might miss this great opportunity to contemplate the big nothing, the nothing preceding loss or gain, the nothing that we did everything for nothing for in the first place, before zero. We stand at the mixed metaphorical apex of the vortex to oblivion, the combined event horizon of two illustrative black holes, the precursor to our friend zero. So, while our access to nothing is strengthened, let us not forget that it is just this nothing of negation, which, well, nothing is almost not nothing at all. But I want all enthusiasts out there to know this. I resolve to do nothing short of what I've probably already done that has been written for me by some disinterested third party in this very important speech that I'm making for you right now, for nothing. I could make some promises regarding nothing, anything, and everything, but I know you're not fool enough to believe that I could actually accomplish much in any field of endeavor. So I've discussed it with my speechwriter, and we've decided to remove almost every lie that I was originally going to tell you. In the interest of full disclosure, we have added several other lies, but we consider these to be white lies because they won't hurt us in any way. I also should add that we've still left in all those old lies, and I'm just going to be expected to edit them out at my sole discretion as I speak to you. So if you see me scribbling something or talking or hesitating, that's just me editing the lie to make it more palatable or removing the lie entirely so that I can replace it with something that's hopefully true but still off the top of my head so nobody really knows. And one thing I'd like to tell you, though, is that we can have everything and nothing. That one and the zero are not mutually exclusive. So that's something I was able to tell you that I wanted to say. But nothing is in crisis right now. So that's good for us, but what about nothing? Do you realize how much effort goes into schooling so people can be things like doctors, teachers, lawyers, scientists? No, of course not. Nobody can understand that. It's impossible, which, as you know, is something I just said. Are we going to let the fact that we don't know and or don't care about whether or not there is or isn't a crisis of some sort having to do minimally with the word nothing, but possibly also with the greater meaning or lack thereof behind that word, keep us from getting involved? Obviously, the answers to our problems lie beyond our reach because even the question regarding whether or not these problems exist is shrouded in mystery. So whether or not these problems are at present speculative, we can and will do nothing to solve them. There are people who may or may not be intelligent working on all these things right now. And the odds are that these people are actually smart because many of them are paid a lot of money. And only an idiot would pay a lot of money to someone who is also an idiot. But we also know that a lot of idiots do have money, so there's still no way to tell for sure. But we hope that the work these people do will be for nothing. When we take a good look at ourselves, what do we see? If you say you don't see nothing, please look again until you do see nothing. Don't write yourself off as a waste of space. Write yourself in as a blank space, a placeholder, a space maker. Fortunately, it doesn't take any far-sightedness for us to see our future or any analytical hindsight to see where we've been. The here and now, too, seems insignificant when juxtaposed. Well, when attempts are made at juxtaposition, One cannot compare two dissimilar things and expect to not hear that you can't compare apples to oranges any more than one can compare something to nothing and not expect someone to think of the apples and oranges thing but not be able to use it, realizing that in the same way that apples and oranges are both not alike, apples and oranges as a combined concept aren't even comparable to not apples and not oranges as a combined concept. Yet even the concept of not apples and not oranges is not even close to the big nothing, the eternal void, the nothing that is, only in the sense that it wasn't, isn't, never will be, and yet isn't a type or antitype of negation. Right now we live in a vague time that is very difficult to describe. This lack of descriptors gives way to feeling that there are no boundaries to what we can accomplish. This grand vista that looms just above the vortex to oblivion makes us imagine little or no possibilities. But we don't need to imagine. There's nothing right there in front of us. It's so close you feel like you could reach out and grab it. But if you tried, you'd just look like an idiot because there's nothing there. To completely rephrase and probably end up saying something totally different than what I intended to say, which was nothing essentially, we have lived in an era when nothing was more important than getting ahead, making a name for yourself, being the best you could be. And if read literally, I've got no real problem with that, but many interpret this statement to mean that everything else is less important than these personal endeavors. I have no real bone to pick with that either, but what really negates my thing is, or causes my thing to come into being, is people include nothing in a list of things that nothing signifies in this statement, making the statement redundantly paradoxical. Whether or not you understood what I just said isn't important, because this speech was written for me by monkeys. I understand it only in the sense that I am reading it to you and judiciously editing what I can only assume is the verbal equivalent of monkey feces. Well, we couldn't actually get a real monkey, but the kid who wrote this for us was caught throwing his feces once. So if you ever are hiring and you see a resume come across your desk that says monkey intern 2009, nothing, he's good, hire him. Seriously, you can't tell the difference between his turds and monkey turds. It's uncanny. But I digress. The point is that now is the time for nothing. It's the time to just not go anywhere, not accomplish anything. The best that you can. We're not saying that you should die. Death is just another can of worms. No. Do as little as possible. Stop showing up at the office. Don't take a shower in the morning. Skip a meal or two. Don't call your mom. Stop caring about things. The list could go on, but that would be counterintuitive. Suffice it to say that there are many very real things you can't do to make little or no difference. This plan that I have, well, I barely have, that I'm really only thinking about for the first time, and that was written mostly by a child dressed in a monkey costume, is real. It's real in the sense that any idea is real. It's real in the same way that a hypothetical question about which arm you want cut off is real. It's real in that it's being spoken right now. And like most of the great ideas ever formulated throughout all of human history, it will have no measurable positive impact. It'll be better than petting a cat. The rest of my speech seems to be replaced with a mashup of the Gettysburg Address and the State of the Union Address. I want to thank all of you for listening to my State of the Nothing address, which unfortunately was truncated by someone inserting a different address into the address. If the nothing that we accomplish together is so little, imagine how great the nothing that we can accomplish apart may or may not be. We live at a threshold, the apex of the vortex to oblivion. I imagine a world where people don't show up for work, and yet that work is done because that work is not important. I imagine a world in which people arbitrarily do things that are completely meaningless. And I think that you want to live in that world too.